Wife demanded an open marriage while I was deployed, so I cut off her access to my $12,000 per month salary and served her divorce papers. I'm 37, a Marine, and I've been married to Sharon, who's 39, for 6 years now. We've known each other for a decade. My job as a logistics officer keeps me deployed for 6 to 7 months out of the year. It's not easy, but we both knew what we were getting into when we set our vows. The upside is that my job pays well, around $120,000 a year with all the benefits and combat pay, so we've been able to live comfortably. We first crossed paths back in 2014 at a barbecue, introduced by mutual friends. At the time, I was already deep into my military career, and she was an elementary school teacher making about $45,000 a year. Right away, she stood out from the other women I dated. She wasn't clueless about the military lifestyle, she understood it. Her father had served for 25 years, so she knew firsthand what it meant to be part of a military family. On top of that, she was independent, had a solid career of her own, and wasn't just looking for someone to provide for her, unlike some of the military wives I'd come across. After 4 years together, we got married in a beautiful ceremony surrounded by family and friends. Her dad, being a veteran himself, was over the moon about his daughter marrying another military man. The first few years of our marriage were solid. Sharon was always supportive of my career, proud of my service, and we made every moment count when I was home. When I was away, she stayed busy with work, her book club, and a tight-knit group of friends, mostly military wives who understood the struggle. We had a system that worked: weekly video dates, care packages, and whenever possible, she'd fly out to meet me at different ports. I made sure she was taken care of, buying her a nice 4-bedroom house in a good neighborhood close to her school, upgrading her car every few years, and making sure she never had to worry about money. She always reassured me that she didn't mind the deployments because the time we had together made it all worth it. She took pride in being a military wife. We had talked about starting a family but agreed to wait until I could land a desk job. She didn't want to raise kids on her own for half the year, and I respected that. Everything felt like it was going according to plan. Life was good. Then, out of nowhere, things started shifting. Looking back, the changes started about 6 months ago, but I didn't notice them at first. Sharon started hanging out more with a new group of friends from her yoga class, mostly single women and divorced moms from her school. She'd post pictures of their nights out at high-end restaurants and clubs, the kinds of places she and I used to go together. At the time, I figured she was just keeping busy while I was away. Then came the little things. She started investing more in her appearance, buying expensive clothes, getting her hair done every few weeks. I assumed she was just treating herself with the money I was making. She even joined a gym and hired a personal trainer, saying she wanted to feel good about herself. Hindsight is 20/20, but at the time, none of this set off alarms for me. I thought she was just focusing on self-care. Turns out, I was blind to the red flags waving right in front of me. A few weeks later, it was time for one of our video date nights, something we did religiously to keep that connection strong. I had just gotten back on the ship and was looking forward to unwinding with her. We had a little tradition: we'd both dress up, pour some wine, and have dinner together over video call. It was our way of making the distance feel less like an ocean between us. That night, I was in a great mood, telling her about something funny that had happened during training when she suddenly hit me with, "I have something to say, let's open our marriage." At first, I thought I misheard her. The wine went down the wrong way, and I started coughing. When I looked back at the screen, expecting her to laugh at my reaction, she wasn't smiling. She was dead serious. I tried to brush it off with a joke. "Okay, what's the punchline? What are you up to?" But she wasn't having it. Instead, she got irritated and snapped, "Are we done? Can we talk seriously now?" And that's when it sank in. She meant every word. I put my wine down and asked, "What's going on?" That's when she unloaded. She said she'd been thinking about this for a while and decided opening our marriage was the best solution for us. According to her, even though we'd been together for 10 years and married for 6, she felt like she was living a single life most of the time. She told me no woman could go 6 months without intimacy and that waiting for me was becoming unbearable. She had spent more than a decade dealing with my deployments, counting our dating years, and she admitted she barely remembered what it was like to have a normal, consistent sex life. The way she framed it, reducing our marriage down to a physical need, made my stomach turn. After everything we'd built, all the sacrifices we'd made, she suddenly wanted to change the rules? I took a deep breath, trying to process what she was saying. "Look, I get that it's hard for you. I appreciate everything you do to keep us going, but this is what my job requires. The distance isn't something I can change right now." We'd talked about this before, back when we first got married. There was a point where we even considered me taking a desk job, but the timing never worked out, and honestly, I love what I do. I always thought she understood that. Apparently, I was wrong. She got frustrated when I tried to approach the conversation rationally. I suggested we take a step back and talk about it later when we were both calmer, but she refused. She started venting about how lonely she'd been spending birthdays and anniversaries alone, going to doctor's appointments without me. She started crying, saying she was tired of living like this. And don't get me wrong, I get it. I know it's tough. I've missed so many big moments too. But what was I supposed to do? This is the life she willingly chose when she married me. Some people had suggested that we have a kid to keep her busy during deployments, but she wasn't ready to be a single mom for half the year, and I respected that. I never wanted to put that kind of responsibility on her. But now, I can't help but wonder, did that decision just make her loneliness worse? Still, opening the marriage? That's insane. I finally asked, "Are you breaking up with me?" She shook her head. "No. I love you. I could never leave you. I want to grow old with you. But I'm about to turn 40, and in a few years, I'll hit menopause. I have so little time left to enjoy my sexuality. Half of my golden years are slipping away, and I spend them waiting for you. I don't want to live with regret." And just like that, everything I thought I knew about my marriage came crashing down. Not once in all the years we'd been together had Sharon ever talked about sex like this. Our physical connection had always been solid whenever I was home. And when I was deployed, we found ways to keep the spark alive: video calls, toys, anything we could manage. She never once said it wasn't enough. Never even hinted that she had a problem with it. So for her to suddenly drop this on me like it was some casual conversation? It didn't make sense. I already knew this was heading somewhere bad. The way she was talking, this wasn't a request. This wasn't a discussion. She wasn't asking for my opinion. She was telling me what was going to happen. Even though I already had a sinking feeling, I forced myself to ask, "What exactly are you saying?" She looked me dead in the eye through the screen, no hesitation. "I want to open this marriage. I want to meet other men. I have needs, and they need to be met. I'm doing this whether you like it or not." It hit me like a punch to the gut. I just sat there, staring at the woman I married, the woman who once swore to be faithful through everything, as she calmly told me she was going to start sleeping with other guys, and there wasn't a damn thing I could do about it. I gritted my teeth, trying to keep my anger in check. My fists clenched under the table. Every part of me wanted to break something, but I forced myself to stay calm. "So let me get this straight," I said, my voice dangerously even. "You want to be with other men, and still stay married to me?" She nodded without a second thought, as if this was the most normal thing in the world. I took a slow breath, trying to process the sheer audacity of what she was saying. "And how exactly does this fix the loneliness you keep talking about? Are these random guys going to be there for you when you're sick? Celebrate your birthday with you?" She hesitated for a split second, then shrugged like it didn't even matter. "I don't know if it would just be physical or if I'd date them, but whatever happens, I love you and only you." Then, with a straight face, she added, "They'd just be fillers while you're gone. But when you're home, I'd be all yours." Like she actually thought that was a reasonable arrangement. Like I was supposed to just be okay with this, be grateful that I'd still get her when I was home. I felt like I was going to be sick. "How long are you planning to do this?" I asked, my voice tight. "A few months? A few years? Forever?" She didn't have an answer. The question I didn't want to ask burned in my throat, but I had to say it. "Have you already cheated on me?" She scoffed like I had just insulted her. "If I wanted to cheat, I wouldn't be telling you this. I'm being honest with you, that's better than sneaking around, isn't it?" I stared at her, stunned at how twisted her logic was. I ran a hand over my face, my head pounding. "So what, I don't even get a say in this?" Her expression turned cold. "I've already made up my mind. If I don't do this, I'll go crazy." That was it. That was the moment something inside me shut off. I felt nothing. No sadness. No heartbreak. Just an overwhelming sense of exhaustion. "I need time to think," I said, rubbing my temple. She didn't even acknowledge it. Just hung up. No goodbye. No "I love you." Nothing. And here's the part that makes this even more screwed up. I had just left home 3 or 4 weeks ago. After spending a full 3 months together. And it had been perfect. We went on a second honeymoon to Hawaii, worked on house projects she had been wanting to do for years, and even had serious conversations about finally trying for a baby next year. She had been all over me the entire time, constantly talking about our future, making plans for my next leave, acting like she was still head over heels in love. The day I left, she was in tears, saying how much she'd miss me. We had even started saving money for our future kid. And me? I had been serious about transitioning to a local base, looking into positions that would keep me home more. That's how committed I was to building a future with her. So the next day, I asked her why she hadn't said anything while I was home. Her response? "I didn't feel the need for other men when you were around." And that's when everything clicked. The timing. The sudden shift in behavior. Just before I deployed, she had mentioned this new personal trainer at her gym, some guy who was so motivational and really pushing her to be her best self. She had even talked about how he'd been giving her extra attention. At the time, I didn't think anything of it. Now it all made sense. This wasn't about loneliness. This was about opportunity. I wasn't stupid. I had seen this play out before. My buddy Mike went through the exact same thing last year. His wife asked for an open marriage while he was deployed, only for it to come out later that she had already been seeing someone. They're divorced now. I asked Sharon one last time if this was really what she wanted, if she had actually thought about what this would do to us, to everything we had built. She didn't even hesitate. Just said yes. Like the last 10 years meant nothing to her. At that point, I decided to push for details. Not because I was considering it, I wasn't, but because I needed to see just how far gone she was. How would this even work? Would I be allowed to see other women? How would we handle money? Her answer made it painfully clear how selfish she was. She admitted she hadn't thought that far ahead. Said she just wanted her needs met while I was away, but when I was home, it would be just us. She told me I could hook up with women on port days if I really wanted to, but when I was back home, I was expected to be faithful to her. According to her brilliant plan, we'd see how it goes, and maybe, just maybe, she'd decide to close the marriage again once she was done exploring. That was it. I was done. I took a deep breath, my voice dangerously calm. This isn't what I signed up for. I wanted a monogamous marriage. But since you've already made up your mind, fine. Do whatever you want. Just don't expect me to sit here and take it, there will be consequences. She smirked. What are you gonna do about it? I laid it out for her. First, you're on your own financially. I'm cutting off the joint account. Second, we're done communicating. No more calls, no more texts while you're busy with your business. And third, I might start seeing other women too, no rules from you. She actually giggled. Said she knew I'd come around. That this would be fun. Then she leaned forward, smirking. I know you won't go too far. How could you leave a beauty like me? Then she started taking off her clothes. I shut that down fast. My conditions start now. Have fun. And I hung up. That was it. Whatever love I had for her? Gone. My next shore leave is coming up. My brother's already helping me find an apartment. Hired a lawyer. Told my parents everything. I'm not rushing anything, I want to do this right. But trust me, I've got plans. She's going to regret every single choice she made. Sharon drove a brand new BMW, the one I bought her last Christmas. She strutted around with Louis Vuitton bags, wore a Cartier watch worth more than her entire monthly paycheck, and never had to worry about a single bill. Every summer, we vacationed in Europe or the Caribbean. She got her hair done at top-tier salons, attended yoga retreats, and lived a life most people only dream about, all because of me. But funny how none of that came up when people started feeling sorry for her. She lived like a queen on my salary while whining about being lonely. And let me be real here, staying faithful isn't exactly a cakewalk for us military guys either. We travel all over the world, stop at different ports, and have access to just about any luxury imaginable. Women throw themselves at men in uniform. Gorgeous women. Women who don't care if you're married. Some of my buddies joke that if I wanted, I could have a girlfriend in every country. But I never did. Because to me, marriage actually meant something. Some of us still choose loyalty, even when nobody's watching. Even when it would be so damn easy to do otherwise. But no one talks about that. Instead, people just assume all military men cheat. Yet here I was, the one getting betrayed. What happened during my leave? I didn't go back to our house. I couldn't. The thought of sleeping in the same bed where she had probably been with other men made me sick. My brother found me a luxury apartment across town. It was in one of those new high-rise buildings, modern, clean, and, most importantly, untouched by her. For the first few days, I stayed with him and his family. My sister-in-law was livid when she found out what Sharon did. They used to be close, but after hearing everything, she completely cut Sharon off. I took my niece and nephew on a camping trip, something I had been promising them for years. But every time they asked, "Where's Aunt Sharon?" it felt like getting punched in the gut. I couldn't bring myself to tell them the truth, so I just made up excuses. Then I spent some time with my parents back in my hometown. Caught up with old friends, most of whom said they never trusted Sharon in the first place. And yeah, I made sure to post everything on social media. Not out of spite, but to show I wasn't sitting around miserable without her. See, my shore lead usually includes these big military events, exclusive, high-profile parties held at five-star hotels. They're invite-only, meant for senior officers, politicians, and other high-ranking figures. Sharon lived for those events. She loved dressing up in designer gowns, loved the attention, loved the feeling of being somebody important. So I made sure to post plenty of photos from the events. And not just solo shots, I made sure to include pictures with my female colleagues. Women who had their own careers. Women who were actually successful doctors, lawyers, business owners. And just like that, word spread fast. When people at these parties asked about Sharon, I didn't lie. I just said, she wanted an open marriage while I was deployed. And suddenly, all those women who used to kiss her ass? The ones she used to go on spa days and shopping trips with? They started distancing themselves. At first, when she saw me posting pictures with my family, she kept it casual. Sent me a simple text. Where are you staying? Why aren't you home? Then it turned into, okay, I'll give you space. I'll wait for you. Like she was doing me a favor. But when she saw the party pictures, she lost it. Her messages turned nasty. She started blowing up my phone, accusing me of abandoning her. Asking me if we hadn't agreed to be normal when I was home. Then came the 2 a.m. drunk texts. Messages about how much she missed our life together. How these other men meant nothing to her. How I was the only one she wanted. I ignored all of it. After months of silence, she finally sent a message that actually made me laugh. I never agreed to this. I replied with a single line. You did what you wanted. Now I'm doing what I want. She snapped back, saying she was waiting for me to finish acting out, like I was some rebellious teenager throwing a tantrum. She really thought she could pause our marriage, have her fun, and then just press play again when she was done exploring. 4 months into my leave, she reached out again, this time with a new approach. She wanted to discuss rules for our open marriage. Like we could just sit down, grab coffee, and map out a schedule for when she got to cheat. I shut that down immediately. Do whatever you want. I'm not playing this game. My lawyer had already told me to keep records of everything she sent me. Those messages were gold for the divorce case. Then, when she saw that I was still living my best life without her, she switched tactics again. Suddenly, I got emails saying, let's go back to normal. I'm done with this. Like she could just flip a switch and erase the past year. Then came the long, emotional email. She admitted she had made a mistake. Said none of these other men made her feel the way I did. Said she realized what she was losing. Said she'd do anything to save our marriage. I sent back a one-word response. Ha! And I kept moving forward. My mom, who hadn't spoken to Sharon since this whole mess started, summed it up perfectly. She never expected you to choose your dignity over her. Then one day, she showed up. At my apartment. Unannounced. To this day, I have no idea who gave her my address. I had only shared it with close family and a handful of trusted friends. Someone snitched, but at this point, I don't even care who it was. I was getting ready for a workout when I heard the knock. And there she was. She looked different. Thinner, hair dyed blonde, wearing a tight dress she never would have worn before, clearly trying to look irresistible. But her expression? Nervous. Why aren't you staying at our house? She asked. I kept my voice even. Because I have no intention of living with someone who doesn't respect our marriage. She did not like that answer. I thought we could figure this out, she said, like we were negotiating over what color to paint the kitchen, not the complete destruction of our marriage. I just stared at her and said, you made your choice. Now I'm making mine. And that's when the tears started. She sobbed about how everyone had turned against her. How none of the wives in our circle would even speak to her anymore, the same women she used to go shopping with, get spa treatments with, host dinner parties with. Now, they wanted nothing to do with her. And all those fancy military events she loved so much? She wasn't getting invited anymore. Turns out, being the wife who opened her marriage while her husband was deployed wasn't great for her social standing. She wiped her eyes, took a shaky breath, and whispered, what do you want? I smirked. You'll find out soon enough. Her face twisted in panic. You met someone, didn't you? She blurted. You love her. Are you sleeping with her? I couldn't help it. I laughed. The woman who wanted to sleep around was now jealous at the thought of me moving on? She kept begging for answers. But I was done. I'd had enough. Get out. That's all I said. She stood there, mouth open like she couldn't believe I was actually throwing her out. Then, after a long pause, she spat, you're going to regret betraying my trust.
The irony of that statement nearly made me laugh. She wanted to open things up? Fine. I was about to open up divorce proceedings.
My lawyer already had the papers ready. I wasn't going to serve them just yet, I planned to wait until I was back at sea. That way, she couldn't show up at my door, fake crying, trying to manipulate her way out of it. The day I deployed, she got served. I barely had time to settle in before my phone started blowing up.
First, she called. Screaming, crying, begging to talk.
Ranting about how I betrayed her, how I left her broken. Like she was the victim here. Then she called my lawyer, saying she would fight the divorce to the bitter end. She wouldn't let me go, she said.
Like she even had a choice.
She must have realized she wasn't getting anywhere with me, so she tried a different tactic, called my parents. Cried to them about how I had blindsided her. How she never saw this coming.
That backfired instantly. They already knew everything.
My mom told her exactly what she thought of her behavior.
My dad didn't even bother responding, just blocked her number.
And then her mom called me. Apparently, Sharon had been telling everyone that we had mutually agreed to open the marriage. She had convinced her entire family that this was a decision we both made together. Her mom said, "We thought it was weird, but figured it was your personal choice." I shut that down immediately.
No.
I already told your other daughter the truth months ago.
I never agreed to anything.
This was all her doing. Her mom sighed, then launched into a speech about how Sharon's mental health was suffering, how she was completely isolated now. Apparently, her whole world had fallen apart.
All those fancy events she used to love? The exclusive military parties? She wasn't invited anymore.
All the officers' wives, the ones she used to go shopping with, have spa days with, gossip with? They wanted nothing to do with her.
And her mom actually thought I would feel bad about that. Why would my friends keep inviting her? She's not even my wife anymore. Then came the real question. Is there any chance you two could work things out? I actually laughed. Not a chance.
And just so they were perfectly clear, I spelled it out. I'm not going back to a woman who spent a year sleeping with random men.
Who knows what kind of filth she's been with?
Her mom gasped, said I was being harsh.
I didn't care.
The longer she fights this divorce, the worse it's going to be for her. I'm moving on with my life, whether she likes it or not.
Update, divorce war. Now my phone was flooded with messages from Sharon.
She was begging,
saying she'd do anything to fix this. I haven't blocked her yet. Maybe that's petty.
But I want her to see exactly what she threw away.
I'll block her eventually. But for now, she can sit in the mess she made. The final blow. I'm back on shore leave, and the divorce is nearly done. And Sharon? She's fighting it. Not because she wants to fix things, but because her perfect little plan completely imploded. See, that shiny new life of freedom she wanted? The exciting world of dating, of being with new men? Yeah. It wasn't as glamorous as she thought. All those guys she had been seeing? They never wanted anything real. They wanted a good time with a married woman. And when the money ran out, they left. Now, she's broke. She thought I was going to come back, take her in, rescue her from the disaster she created. She thought wrong. She burned through every last cent trying to maintain her lifestyle. Her teacher's salary barely covers rent now, let alone the designer bags and high-end vacations she was used to. And that's the thing about living large, once you get used to it, it's hard to go back. At first, she thought it was just temporary. She figured she could write out her savings until I came to my senses and started funding her life again. That was her grand plan. Play faithful wife during my shore leave. Go wild when I was deployed. And keep my money as a safety net. Well, that plan blew up in her face. She even broke down crying in front of the magistrate, admitting that opening the marriage was a mistake. Now she keeps saying she just wants things to go back to normal. Like she can just press rewind and erase the past year. Like I'm supposed to forget what she put me through. Let's start fresh, she keeps saying. Easy for her to say. She wasn't the one stuck on a ship in the middle of nowhere, staring at an empty ocean for months, wondering what the hell was happening back home. She wasn't the one battling the dark thoughts that creep in when you're alone with nothing but time. She doesn't get to just walk back into my life like nothing happened. Moving on. The divorce is almost final. One more court date and it's over. Asset division is set. I made sure it was fair, though she's not happy about it. I'm selling the house. She can't buy me out, she doesn't have the money. Fine by me. I don't want it anyway. I don't want any part of that life. And me? I'm doing better than ever. I've met new people. Built a solid routine. I love my life now. I wake up free. No more second guessing. No more wondering if the person I love is sneaking around behind my back. I'm not bitter. I'm grateful. I didn't let her destroy me.
I didn't let her drag me down with her.
I'm not looking to date, but if the right person comes along, I'm open to it. And Sharon?
She still hasn't let go. I blocked her on everything, but she keeps making fake accounts to stalk me.
I can always tell when it's her. And you know what? I let her look. Let her see exactly what she gave up.
Her Instagram used to be nothing but vacation photos, high-end dinners, and luxury trips.
Now, it's just sad quotes about regret and second chances. Funny how that works. Guess that's what happens when you ruin a good thing.